Welcome to the Phil Steele Plus Tour, Week 2. Well, a rare losing week last week. You know, last year we had one losing week the entire year on this Phil Steele Plus Tour. That drops our record all the way down to 47-22, 68% winners over the last 2 years now doing the tour. I've got 7 free selections for you, and the purpose of this tour is to show you how to use the Phil Steele Plus site at its best. This is what I use to handicap. It gives me all the information that you're about to see at your fingertips each and every week for NFL, for college, and for FCS. Everything, $69 for the entire year, and I'll show you how to use the site right now. Let's start off with our streak of the week. And let me close this, go over here to Rutgers, and we're going to take a look at Rutgers. Now, first of all, let me show you the last 43 years' results. You get results from not only last year, 2018, but all the way back to 1976. Look, when Rutgers wasn't in the Big Ten, and way back in 1976, they're playing teams like Navy, Bucknell, Princeton, Cornell, Connecticut, Lehigh, Columbia, UMass, Louisville, Tulane, and Colgate. Now, of course, they're playing the Big Ten schedule. And Rutgers hasn't been a very good team, but very sneakily, Rutgers has had 6 straight covers. Let's take a look at those games at the end of last year. They played Northwestern and lost 18-15. They actually led that game 12-7 at the half. Wisconsin, they were only down 10-0 at the half, only lost by 14. Both games, they were getting 4 touchdowns. Michigan against Michigan, number 4 Michigan, they were getting 37.5. They only trailed by 14 at the half, only lost by 35. Penn State, they were a 4-touchdown dog. Once again, only lost by 13. And Michigan State, they were a 24.5-point dog on the road. They actually led that game. I'll show you that in a minute. It was 7-7 at the half. They lost 14-10. If we go back to the Rutgers page itself, we can see that last week against UMass, they scared me a little bit. We used Rutgers on inside the press box. They actually trailed UMass 21-7, scored the game's last 41 points to win that thing 48-21. Very impressive win. And if we go back to last year, this Michigan State game, I love clicking on these. You can see the box score, see how the game happened. They led 10-7, and then with 3:57 to go, gave up a touchdown. Ended up losing 14-10, but still easy covers. So 6 straight covers for Rutgers, trying to make it 7-0 this week. My streak of the week is Rutgers, and I just showed you how to use the 43-year results here. Also showed you how to use the box scores. The box scores are something that I find invaluable. We give you the halftime updates here on Phil Steele. So at the half, Rutgers, after even trailing 21-7, they led 38-21 at the half. How about 401 yards offense in the first half for Rutgers? And something else I want to point out. Last year, they got abysmal play at the quarterbacks, 48% completions. They had a total of 22 interceptions and 5 touchdown passes all year. Abysmal. Well, McLean Carter has cleaned that up. Yeah, he had 3 interceptions last week and only 2 touchdowns, but 340 yards passing. They've got Blackshear, who's their top player. He had only 39 yards rushing, but 126 receiving. He's their outstanding running back. And then they introduced Pacheco into the lineup, 156 yards, 7.8. So it's pretty good Rutgers. They're getting 20 points against Iowa this week. We're taking Rutgers plus 20 over Iowa as the streak of the week game as Rutgers goes for their 7th straight cover. Now let's take a look at our workbook game of the week, and we're going to take a look at the Minnesota Vikings against Atlanta. Now, when I say workbook, as you know, in the colleges, we have got the college magazine. We do not do an NFL magazine, but you can get this for the NFL, which is your spread records for the last 10 years, both the side play and the total, and then you can also get the last 20 years results are all at your fingertips as well, much like with the college here. And we're going to hone in on this Minnesota-Atlanta game for starters. Minnesota is a great home favorite. Look at this, 4-2-1, 5-1, 4-2, 6-0. Minnesota's on a 19-5-1 ATS run as a home favorite, so you got to like that. Now let's take a look at their opponent, the Atlanta Falcons. And the good thing about this workbook is you can fill it in during the season. You can update your line, your score, what they did home away, put your little notes about the team, maybe what you had on a selection on the game so you know if you have a good pulse on them or not. Take a look at Atlanta as a home dog. They were 1-6 6 the last 2 years, and they lost their last game in 16 as a dog. So they're on a 1-7 run, or 1-6 run as an away dog against non-division teams. They are 2-9, and here's your division records and non-division records right here. As you can see, 2-8 last year, and they lost their last game in non-division in 17. So a 2-9 run non-division. And then if we take a look at the Minnesota Viking, let me close out these workbook pages. By the way, this workbook, you get all this information every page, 2 full pages every team. Just real quick, you can get the workbook right now for $40.70. That includes shipping. It's a big book. It's on 60-pound paper, so you can write on it. It'll last all season. But if you put in the code word SAVE5PS, that's SAVE, S-A-V-E, 5PS, then you can save $5 and get it for just $35.70. Just go here to the philsteele.com store. Here is the workbook is right here. You would click on it to order it, and then when you order it, don't pay the $40.70. Type in the code word SAVE5PS, and you can get it for just $35.70. That's the workbook, college and pro, 2 full pages on every NFL and every college team, and you can keep track. Nobody produces scorebooks anymore, but we do. It's something that we can do easily, and you can have it in your hands all season long, and you'll be using it each and every week during the football season. But one other thing I wanted to show you here on this Minnesota-Atlanta game, and another thing that's great on the site, is when you go to the Vikings team page here, you can click on the Atlanta, and you'll get the last 19 years matchups. And look at this. In the 3 years that Minnesota's head coach has been there, they have won all 3 games, all as underdogs. They've upset so in 14, 15, and 17, they've played Atlanta 3 times. They've upset them all 3 times. Had the yardage edge in all 3 games as well, so nothing fluky about it. Minnesota has done a great job with Zimmer as the head coach against Atlanta, perfect 3-0. And once again, that's something else you can use on the site. You got the last 19 years matchups between the 2 teams at your fingertips, and you could tell upsets, you could tell home and away, everything about the game, the stats, and they're color-coded green and red, so you could see in a minute good things and bad things. They just jump right out to you. So I'm going to close the team page on Atlanta here, close the workbook page on Minnesota, and we'll move on to the FCS versus FBS. So let's get to that now. And we've got a complete FCS updated as well as FBS, and these games did extremely well last year. First matchup we're going to look at is Ball State against Fordham. Now, Ball State's a team in the MAC that lost last week, and let's drill into that a little bit, which is something you can easily do with Phil Steele Plus. We'll click on Ball State. We're going to take Indiana's a good team. They're going to be a bowl team this year. They lost to them 34-24, and it was a close game. As you could tell at the half, it was 16-10. In fact, when you click on the box, you could see that it was 31-24. Indiana got a field goal with 2:15 left and pull out to a 34-24 win. So Ball State's a good team. They had 26-25 first down edge in the game, and they actually played better than the score would indicate. I like what Drew Plitt did. Drew Plitt, now a lot of talk about Riley Neal being gone this year, going to Vanderbilt to be their starting quarterback. I really got the feeling that Plitt was going to be the starter. He was going to beat him out. And as you see last year, he had a higher completion percentage. Also, a big thing was, how are they going to replace James Gilbert? Gilbert only ran for 659 yards last year. Huntley did well in the opener, 81 yards rushing. Plitt hit 63% with a 2-1 ratio, threw for 298 yards. So I think their offense will be just fine this year. And when we take a look at who they're playing, they are playing Fordham. This is the NFL page. Let's go to the FCS. On the FCS, you get them in alphabetical order, so you just click on Fordham. Fordham last week lost to Central Connecticut State, 26-23. And last year, if you look at Fordham, they only won 2 games all year. Look at what their offense was last year, just 251 yards on the ground. They only averaged 51 yards rushing, 1.7 yards per carry, and 53% completions. Defensively, they gave up 192 yards per game on the ground and 60% completions. They played Charlotte and lost to them by 24. And then, as mentioned, they lost their opener to Central Connecticut State. And why is that important? Let's take a look at Ball State and look who they opened with last year. They opened with, Central Connecticut State. It's important for Ball State to win these games. It's important for Ball State to get to a bowl. Look what they did against Central Connecticut State, 42-6. They had a 652 to 291 yard edge in that game, 31-16 first down edge. Led the game 21-0 at the half and rolled to a 42-6 win. That's the same Central Connecticut State team that just beat Fordham in the opener. This year and last year, as you see, we've added the individual or average game grades, which I found invaluable. We have these in the magazine, and they are, of course, updated during the season. So you see Ball State, what they do. They don't just look at the score. They look at the opponent, and they look at the yards and the score and factor it in. So they played at an 87.0 level last week. Meanwhile, Fordham, losing to Central Connecticut State, played at a 44.6 level. So that's 34 points better, 33 points better than Fordham. And you add in the home edge, it's a 36-point advantage. Last year, Fordham played at just a 37.8 level, and Ball State played at a 74.9 level. So both of those say Ball State by the 30s, the average game grade, and Ball State's a 28-point favorite here. And once again, last year, do they do well against FCS teams? Well, how about 42-6 against Central Connecticut State in that opening game? They blew them out. They even beat UAB by 20 points here 2 years ago. So it's a desperate Ball State team that's better than their score would indicate. I've got them beating Fordham by more than 28. My computer, by the way, has them winning 48-0 in the game. So I like Ball State minus 28 over Fordham. Let's take a look at another FBS-FCS game. And we're going to take a look at Colorado State and Western Illinois. And once again, trying to show you the ways to use this site. When we go to Colorado State, now they're off a blowout loss, right? They got killed by Colorado by 21 last week. Not so fast. Look at this. They had 505 yards to 475. They actually had the yardage edge. And if you followed the game, it was 24-21 at the half. It was actually 31-24 in the fourth quarter. Colorado got a touchdown to take a 38-31 in the fourth quarter, Colorado got a touchdown with 9:16 left to go up 45-31, then got a fumble return for a touchdown to turn it into a blowout, 21-point loss, but Colorado State played pretty good. I like the way they moved the ball with 505 yards offense last week. Colin Hill hit 66%, threw for 374 yards. So this is a good Colorado State team that just beat Colorado. And let's take a look and see what Western Illinois did last week. All right, Western Illinois is over here. They lost to North Alabama 26-17, got outgained 412-302. This is a Western Illinois team that was just 5 wins, 6 losses last year. They lost to Illinois by 20. My computer's got Colorado State winning this thing by 20 points, and they're only a 10.5-point favorite. So I think Colorado State better than they showed last week score-wise. They actually outgained Colorado against a Western Illinois team that played at a 33.5 average game grade. Colorado State, because they played Colorado and outgained them, played at an 85.7 grade. So that right there is about a 50 game grade difference. And they're only laying 10.5. My computer's got them winning by 20, I should say. I'm going to go with Colorado State minus 10.5 over Western Illinois. And once again, you have a Colorado State team off a loss. It's not going to overlook Western Illinois, especially after the season they had last year. They're not going to overlook anybody. So, and they lost to Illinois State. So there's no overlooking an FCS opponent this year. I like Colorado State minus 10.5 over Western Illinois as play number 4. Now let's go to play number 5. And I put out a weekly newsletter called Inside the Press Box. And Inside the Press Box gives you a complete write-up on every single game. This is what you get, a full page on every game. Here's my write-up. I give you a complete analysis, what happened last week, what we're looking ahead to, is there a situation, it's all in there. Plus you get the projected box score on the game, which I find invaluable. This is my computer's projection, and we'll see if we can hone in on that a little bit here. Nope, not that one. I'm going to click on here, computer's projected score in this game. There it is. And let's take a look at this one a little bit closer. And we see that the projected box score actually shows Fresno with a 362 to 332 yard edge. So actually outgaining Minnesota. They're a 3-point home dog here. And the computer is showing Minnesota winning by 2, but once again, you get 3 points in the game. Here's my forecast on the game, the complete write-up on it. You could read that right now. Just go ahead and hit pause and go ahead and read the complete write-up. I've got Fresno coming out a 24-23 win. I like home dogs that are projected to have more yards than their opponent. And then the other factor, and the reason I clicked on this out of the workbook page again, is look at how Fresno's done as a home dog. They actually have won 7 in a row as a home dog. So this could have been in the streak section. They were 1-0, 5-0, and they won their last game in 15 as a home dog. That was here against San Jose. They lost the game, but +3, they lost by 2 and covered. They actually led 14-7 at the half. And one thing I failed to point out on the when I was clicking on the workbooks is look at this. You get the halftime of every single game. That's something I don't have room for in the magazine. I would love to put it in the magazine, but you actually get the halftime of every game, which gives you a grade. And you also get the total on every game. And this goes all the way back. Looks like the totals go back a long way. The totals are back to 2003. The half times are back to 2004. You get half times on every game, and that really gives you a good glimpse as to how the games were played. So you get half times, you get totals on every game, you get these complete stats section here as well. When you look at the stats, you see that this is the coach of every year for Fresno State, dating back to 1999. You get the conference records, the stats, see how they did. All that's in your workbook. And once again, your code word for that is SAVE5PS. That's SAVE5PS. But this play here, my inside the press box yardage play, it did lose last week. Oregon State lost by 16 against Oklahoma State. They were only outgained by 100 yards. They were getting 14, did not cover, but the inside the press box yardage game this week is Fresno State +3 over Minnesota, forecasted to have a 361, 333 yard edge. And by the way, if you go to InsideThePressBox.com, you can click on here. This is InsideThePressBox.com. Just hit subscribe now. And when you go there, you can get the NFL, the college, or the NFL and college bundle and save $20. Type in the code word STEEL19. That's STEELE 19. That's STEEL19. You save $20 off of this. So $129, $129. Or if you just want to try it out this week, if you want the college, you could take 50% off that by typing in STEEL19. So you could get that for basically $9.99, NFL for $9.99, or get them both for just $15 this week and give it a trial run. That's InsideThePressBox.com, STEEL19. That'll also work on PhilSteele.com. If you want to get the season of Inside the Press Box, you can go to the store and click on that, and you could get Phil Steele. Well, that's Phil Steele Plus. You can get the newsletter Inside the Press Box right here. Type in the code word STEEL19 to get those discounts. All right, let's take a look at an NFL game for this week. And I find this one interesting. And I'm going to talk about a college game from last week first, which highlights why I've honed in on this NFL game this week. And first of all, I thought that the fakest team in college football last year was South Florida. Look at what they did last year. They opened up getting by Elon by 20, not impressive. Georgia Tech, they were outgained 602 to 426, somehow won the game. The Illinois game, they won. Illinois was not a good team last year. If you look at the box score, and once again, these are invaluable, you could see Illinois led this thing 19-7 in the fourth quarter. USF rallied, pulled out the win with 2:24 to go. So far, they're a very lucky 3-0. Then they play East Carolina. Look at this. They were outgained 412 to 296, out first down 24 to 9, somehow pull out a 7-point win. Then they play UMass, a very weak team last year, get past them by 16, not impressive at all. Look at this. At the half, it was 20 to 14. Then they play Tulsa. Once again, this is another lucky win. They're down in the fourth quarter, 24 to 10. Pull out a win on a field goal with 2 seconds left in the game, 25-24. Tulsa was not a good team last year. Then they play Connecticut. Everybody blew out Connecticut last year. Not USF. They only beat them 38 to 30. And only had a 156-yard edge in the game. So they're 7-0. They're ranked. And I pointed out many times on Phil Steele Plus in the second half of last year, this is the fakest team in college football. Look what happened. They played 6 bowl teams down the stretch. They got blown out by all 6. Now, last week, I thought South Florida was going to be an improved team, and I thought they could give Wisconsin a game in the heat and humidity at home. Not so fast, my friend. 433, 157. Nothing's changed. They are the fakest team in college football. Blake Barnett didn't even look good. At 43% completions, didn't even look good throwing the football. This is a USF team that was fake. Now, I bring that up in the NFL version because the fakest team in the NFL last year, I can click back here and get to my NFL pages, was the Miami Dolphins. Let's look at Miami. Miami at one point last year was 7-6 and a playoff contender, right? Then they unfortunately lost their last 3 games and just missed the playoffs. Well, not so fast. Look at this. In the NFL, average game grades, which take into account the yards and the points and the opponent, had them number 32 in the NFL last year. Number 32, dead last. They were outgained by 101 yards per game. That's generally a 2-14 team. They somehow were 7-9 last year. So they were the fakest team in the NFL last year. Meanwhile, they're taking on Baltimore this week. And I know the game's in Miami, and Baltimore's on the road, but Baltimore was actually number 1 in the NFL in my average game grade last year. They ran the football extremely well. Look at that, their difference running the football, stopping the run. All these green numbers here, outstanding. Once Jackson took over at QB, look at the rush numbers for Baltimore down the stretch. So they were number 1 in the NFL average game grades. They were number 32. And then last week, Miami traded Tunsil at guard, the wide receiver Stills, linebacker Alonzo, all for draft picks. They're rebuilding. They're looking to the future. They're trying to get high draft picks for this year. Baltimore's a team that's probably was better in its record. Miami was definitely not as good as its record last year. So we're taking a look at this one. I'm going to go with Baltimore minus 6.5 over Miami. By the way, I do a most improved list on the NFL. Chicago is number 32 on that list for this year, as far as they probably have a weaker record this year. And I'll have that list posted on the Wednesday Phil Steele blog here on YouTube, so make sure you check that out. And remember, with this YouTube, make sure you subscribe. You'll get and hit the bell. That way you'll get notified each week whenever we put up a new YouTube video. And these are all free. All I need you to do is subscribe. And subscribing doesn't cost anything. And you get free picks all season long. How about that? All right, let's take a look at my situational game of the week this week, and we're going to go to look at Oregon against Nevada, and once again showing you how different ways to use the site, and we'll dive in a little bit on Oregon here. Look at the site. You get actually go back and get 2018, 17, 16, 15, all color-coded green and red. You have all this at your fingertips for every single team, and not only for college, but also NFL. You could go back and get all of this. Here's the Buffalo Bills. You can see all the red that's been on Buffalo. They haven't made the play. They made the playoffs once recently, all the way back to 2009. And you also get the individual leaders. I believe you can click here and get the stats game by game, who did what in each game, dating all the way back there. Naturally, you can get that for last year. If you want to get the 2018 individual player stats, you can see right here how they did. Josh Allen throwing the football, how he did here. He missed 3 games due to injury. There's his replacement, what they did. What LaShawn McCoy, who they just traded to Kansas City, did all season. Only averaged 3.2 yards per carry. You can see he had a lot of games where he was averaging 1 yard per carry. So it was very interesting. That's available on every team. And also for the FCS, if you look at that, I didn't go into that. Let's just pick any team out here. Let's say Holy Cross. You can go back and see at a glance, winning record or losing record, and all their information. So if you want to know how Holy Cross did against Lehigh the last 5 years, you can go look and see how they did in each of those games. And that's available on every FCS team, but also every FBS team. You get that, and I find these invaluable. So Oregon's playing Nevada. Let's go find Nevada here. Once again, I'm just trying to show you as much about how to use the site as I can. You can even get well, we just showed you individual leaders. Let's talk about the game. Now, Nevada's off a win over Purdue. That was a great win, right? Well, not so fast, my friend. They were actually +5 in turnovers, only won the game by 3. And actually, if you're watching the game, they were down 24-7 at the half. I had Nevada in that game. I'm thinking, oh, well, this is going to be a loss. 31-14, Purdue is leading the game. And then Nevada rallies back. They got a touchdown with 52 seconds left, then got an interception and went 27 yards and got a field goal. 56 yards. They actually kicked the field goal and missed it, but Brahman called timeout to ice the kicker, and then they nailed the 56-yarder. Talton got a scholarship after that kick, so they're off a big emotional home win, now having to travel, probably still patting each other on the back for the big upset win last week. You see teams usually have a letdown spot after a big win like that, and in this case, it was a misleading win because they were +5 in turnovers and actually outgained by 115 yards. Then you look at Oregon, and we go back to the game against Auburn last week. If you watch that, you know that at the half it was 14-6. In fact, Oregon appeared on their way to a rout. They dropped a touchdown pass and then missed a field goal, or they could have been up more than 14-6. Then it was 21-6, firmly in control of the game. At the end of the game, if you had Oregon +4, like they were in this one, you had to be bitter because they led the entire game, never trailed against the spread. And then at the end of the game, Auburn appeared to be driving for the game-winning field goal, which would have had them win by 2, and Oregon would have still covered. They throw a 26-yard TD pass with 9 seconds left. Now Oregon's back at home, off a loss, angry. I don't think that they're going to let up here. They only have Montana on deck. That's a nice situational advantage for Oregon in this one. So I'm going to go with Oregon minus the 24 over Nevada. You're catching Nevada off a misleading game and a big win. Plus, Nevada's actually just 4-8 against the spread under Norvell on the road. So they're not a great road team. They're playing in a very loud Autzen Stadium. So I hope I showed you enough about how to use Phil Steele Plus. Once again, Phil Steele Plus just $69 for the year. If you type in the code word winners, that's winners, you can take $5 off. If you're just an FCS fan, you just want to become an expert on the FCS and really take advantage. There's lines on the FCS for every game right now. You can become an instant expert on every team, see how they did game by game. You've got the leaders up here. We'll have statistical leaders all season long. Nobody's got this type of information on the FCS. It's $29 for the year. Take $5 off if you type in the code word winners. So just go right here to the store, and when you go to the store, click on Phil Steele Plus for the $69 less $5, or the Phil Steele FCS only, which is $29 less $5. A lot of people say, why don't you produce an FCS magazine? There it is. Every piece of information you want, and it's updated all season long. So once again, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed the free plays. The streak of the week was Rutgers. The workbook game of the week was Minnesota. The FCS versus FBS games were Ball State and Colorado State. The Inside the Pressbacks yardage game was Fresno. The NFL game was Baltimore, and the situational game was Oregon. Make sure you subscribe. That way you keep getting these free plays every week. Make sure you like it. Throw a comment in there. Let me know what you'd like to hear. And, of course, hit the bell so that we can update you whenever we put out another free play update here on the Phil Steele YouTube page. Thanks for watching.